Now that the NBA regular season has concluded, we are left to reflect on what it was. It almost feels like there have been two separate seasons this year, the one out of the bubble and the one in it. Obviously, the bubble has seen great success for a plethora of reasons, from vigilant testing to the many incredible developing storylines that we have all been following intently. The biggest of those is certainly the unparalleled success of the Phoenix Suns. They balled out of their minds in the bubble, winning 8 games in a row and even revitalizing Cam Payne's career, which are a couple of things that I never would have believed to be possible. A young team that clearly can be very good when they are motivated to do so. You would think that the Phoenix Suns will carry this run into the new season and build on their bubble success. That's where I disagree. The first thing that I want to make very clear here is that I don't think the Suns are going to be a worse team next season. I just think that they're going to take a step back because the Western Conference next year is going to be insane. Obviously, because the draft and free agency haven't happened yet, there's still a lot of things that can change. However, this year's free agency is headlined by Anthony Davis and Andre Drummond. So unless something crazy happens, Anthony Davis is going to go back to the Lakers to keep contending. As for the draft, there isn't really a consensus number one franchise changer out there who is really going to make that much of a difference in the playoff picture. I think that the best way to really examine how good the Western Conference is going to be next year is to go through each team individually. Unless Anthony Davis signs with the Bulls or something, the Lakers will be a good team again. They might even be able to build a better supporting cast this summer or autumn. The Clippers should also return similarly competent, though there is the big question of Montrezl Harrell's contract, which that's a decision they're going to have to make. Even if he leaves though, and Lou Williams regresses some, it's really hard for me to imagine a team that has Kawhi Leonard and Paul George on it missing the playoffs, or even winning less than 50 games, or its equivalent in a shorter season. The Denver Nuggets should also return in a similar state to this year, though they're going to have to make a big decision about Paul Millsap's unrestricted free agency. Again though, as much as he's a good player for them and very good in the locker room, I don't see them dropping out of the playoff picture because of that. The Thunder, on the other hand, are a much bigger question because I could definitely see them deciding next year that it's time to blow it up and move Chris Paul, Danilo Gallinari, and Steven Adams. But if they decide to run it back and keep this group together, they are a team that I could see maybe regressing a little bit, but I think that they're definitely going to be contending for a playoff spot and winning 45 to 50 games or its equivalent. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander also is only going to get better, and I could realistically see him making an all-star push next year. The Rockets are a team that I could also see regressing a bit because James Harden and Russell Westbrook aren't really getting any younger, but you still have to think that they're not going to just drop out of the playoff picture. The Jazz might regress as well. It kind of feels like they peaked the last couple of years, but it's still, again, it's so hard to just imagine them falling out of the playoff picture. The Dallas Mavericks, though, are not even close to their peak, but I think next year they could get a little closer. Luka and Kristaps are going to continue to figure out their dynamic together, and we'll see what they do in free agency, but I think that Luka could take it to a level even beyond what he did this year. I could also see Portland having a bit of a bounce back season after just a really bad regular season. I think, as we've seen in the bubble, losing Jusuf Nurkic was really big for their tough regular season in 2019 to 2020. And I think if everyone can stay healthy the whole year, they should be back in the playoff picture. A team I haven't even mentioned yet is Golden State, who are going to come back next year fully revitalized a revamped roster, but they're going to be eager to make a run in the playoffs. They might not be the same level as they were like 4 years ago, but they're going to come back and they're going to be a playoff team. And they're also going to have a very good draft pick. If any team could be affected by the NBA draft, it's the Golden State Warriors. The Pelicans just fired Alvin Gentry, but whoever they bring in should have a very, very good chance to make them a playoff team. And hopefully Zion will play the whole season, and Brandon Ingram and Hem will gel a little bit more than we've seen them do so far. And they might make a decision to trade Holiday. They might not, but I think they'll have a shot at the playoffs. That's already 10 teams, 9 if the Thunder blow it up, but 9 to 10 teams that I think have a way better shot at the playoffs than the Phoenix Suns. The remaining teams also each have significant potential to be a very difficult matchup on any given night. Before anyone mentions, whoa, why aren't the Grizzlies going to be in the playoff contending category? I'm factoring in their probable lack of their first round pick and their lack of their best defender in Jaren Jackson Jr., who is going to miss a healthy amount of time. Poor choice of words, but he's going to miss some time. I just have a hard time seeing them being as good as some of those other teams I mentioned before, but anything can happen. Just for reference, if there had been 82 games played in this last regular season, there would have been 6 50-win teams in the Western Conference and another 47-win team. Even if the Warriors were not returning to full health next year, the Suns would have a really hard time getting any seed other than the 8 seed, and we've already covered their overwhelming competition in that category. Another crucial factor here is that the Suns are in a division that includes the Lakers, the Clippers, the Warriors, and the Kings. This means that in an 82-game season, the Suns would have to play each of these 4 teams 4 times apiece. And 3 of those teams are teams that I think are going to win over 50 games next season, or the equivalent of that in a shortened season. And as I haven't mentioned yet, the Kings are not a joke either. They're going to be in a similar place to the Suns, but they're still going to be a solid team that is not going to be easy to beat. I again want to clarify that I am definitely not saying that I don't think the Suns could make the playoffs. I just don't think that they match up quite well enough to their overwhelming competition in the Western Conference. For the Suns to actually make a serious playoff push next year, I think Devin Booker would have to put up MVP numbers. DeAndre Ayton would have to take a massive jump, especially defensively. Kelly Oubre would have to return and continue to play as well as he did last year. And then young players like Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson would have to find their role on this team and play really good basketball. Even then, I just don't know if it's going to be enough. Either way, though, if the Suns miss the playoffs again next year, it's going to be heartbreaking, especially for someone like Devin Booker. No matter what happens next year, I still think that this group assembled in Phoenix has a lot of potential, and I'm really excited to see how they perform in years to come. Thanks for watching. In all likelihood, in a year I will look like a complete idiot. Whatever. I would really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe, but that's completely up to you. I'm not asking for mind control.